Member for Vancouver West End.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In 2008, the government introduced a program to help crack down on bad landlords who harm tenants and bad tenants who harm landlords. New Democrats have been saying for years that it does not work. Well, it turns out, Honourable Speaker, that the minister's own staff agrees. 7 years after this program was introduced, can the minister tell us how many penalties have actually been levied?
Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought of opening my QP binder at the risk of moss flying out, so I thought I wouldn't bother. Madam Speaker, we actually did a plain language rewrite of the Residential Tenancy Act that hadn't been touched for over 20 years when we did it back in 2002. We built a process around it. We put discipline into the system. In actual fact, the resident tenancy relationships are much better in the last 10 years than they were the previous probably 20, as people evolved around this particular piece of legislation. We have brought in administrative penalties, which is actually a deterrent in the system to take care of people, the small amount of people within this system who want to abuse the issues in and around landlord tenancy. At the same time, our expectation is that people within these relationships, both the tenant and the landlord, will continue to operate within the Act, within the rules, and have tenancy agreements in place.
Vancouver West End.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, the number of administrative penalties issued by this government to crack down on bad landlords and bad tenants isn't a difficult number to remember, so I'll inform the minister since he's paid such little attention. The residential tenancy branch has issued a grand total of 1 penalty, just 1 penalty. And you know what, Honourable Speaker? They never even collected on it. Not 1 penny, not 1 dime, nickel, dollar, nothing, not 1 thing to crack down on bad landlords or bad tenants. They've walked away. Well, the internal review shows why. Staff reported there were no clear guidelines, no legal authority, not enough people to even go after those breaking the law. In a major understatement, the staff described the administrative penalty program as, quote, not particularly successful. Well, I'd say so, Honourable Speaker. When this minister and the BC Liberals let bad tenants and bad landlords continue to break the law with impunity, it's not successful. It's irresponsible, Honourable Speaker. So can the Honourable Minister tell us why his government continues to let lawbreakers walk away free?
Minister.
Well, thanks, Madam Speaker, and obviously the member hasn't done his research with regards to some of the abilities that we've had because of the deterrent of administrative penalties, where we've actually had landlords go in and do the renovations and fix up bad properties because that was hanging over their head, and that's called a deterrent, Honourable Member, and it actually works in the residential tenancy branch.
Chair,
and I know
Minister.
the member opposite thinks the sky is falling, but there's 500,000 plus people in British Columbia in residential tenancy agreements today. The number of complaints that come to the residential office are about that big relative to the statistics, Madam Speaker. We know that as long as people use the law, use a tenancy agreement that's online when they bring in a tenant, whether it be a single person with a basement suite or a large landlord, that those relationships stand the test of the discussion with the residential tenancy branch, and we continue to look at improvements of the Act as we go through it, and we work with both parties to try and make sure that that relationship continues to be strong in British Columbia.